right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave. Thank you for joining us here. Bob Pompeani with you until 11 o'clock, along with Andrew Filipponi up at 93.7 The Fan. We're here talking sports at 412-575-2600. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Pirates got better. They didn't give up 18 runs tonight. They gave up just 9. Rowdy Tellez could not go for being overworked for those 2 nights and three games. I mean, that's a little bit much. They couldn't put him in here tonight. But, you know, the bottom line is they had chances to really minimize the damage there tonight. A big error by Nick Gonzalez in the 5th inning. Andrew opened up the floodgates and then walking guys with the bases loaded. Just a lot of problems continue. But, you know, bottom line is Jones is back. At least that gives them something to work on for the rest of the season as they fall 9.5 out of the final wild card.
Yeah, and he didn't really have his best stuff tonight. He did not last very long. Not that I thought he was going to go deep into the game because of all the time he missed, but still, you know, you give up, 5 runs, and now his ERA on the season is 3.88, which is good but not great. It's not a special number right now. Bob, this situation for the Pirates, it really is getting to the point where you have to think long and hard about the people making the decisions and whether or not they're qualified to continue to do so. This is year 5 of a rebuild. They're going to finish in last place unless they do something dramatic in September to change that. And they're probably going to finish with fewer wins than last year. And, by the way, the difference between last year and this year, last year they didn't have O'Neal Cruz, their best hitter by OPS. And last year they didn't have Paul Skeens, who's probably going to either finish 1st or 2nd in National League Rookie of the Year and in the top 10 in the Cy Young voting. So you added both of those guys, and you're going to win fewer games, and you're going to finish worse in your division. I mean, how is that possible?
No, it's possible because they're just fundamentally a flawed team. You're right, and he's, you know, having Jared Jones do what he has unexpectedly was something good. And Keller had a pretty good start to the season. So all these things pointed to what you thought would be improvement and at least competing for that last wild card. Here's the other thing that really baffles me, and it just, to me, they got to make a change to Andy Haynes. I've watched enough swinging and missing. They had some awful at-bats tonight, swinging at stuff in the dirt, 15 more strikeouts. I think only Colorado strikes out more as a team. You can't have that. You got to put the ball in play, especially with a team that doesn't have a lot of power at a lot of positions. And so there are a lot of problems going on here, and you thought it might get better this year, but it simply has not. All right, we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, because people want to weigh in on our hotline, as well as Twitter at KDPomp, at the Pony Express. But today was also a day where NFL rosters had to be trimmed significantly. Not many surprises for the Steelers here. I was a little surprised that Des Fitzpatrick got cut, just because I thought he was a reliable receiver in the preseason. Anything stand out to you about what you saw today from their moves?
Not really. I'm with you on that. You know, they did not have a big-name player who got released or a veteran guy who got released like a lot of other NFL teams. So, you know, in one respect, I would say that's not a great sign because that means that they don't have such a deep roster that they're forced to cut good players. I don't think they're going to have a single guy that really generates a lot of buzz or interest on the waiver wire here in the next couple of days. Some wide receivers did get shown the door by their teams who I think the Steelers need to go after, Bob. Noah Brown in Houston is one of those guys. He was a very familiar target to C.J. Stroud. He's had, I think, he's averaged 650 yards per season the last 2 years, around 5 touchdowns a season. I mean, that's a guy that I would absolutely look into. Tim Patrick, who I thought might be a guy signed on the Lions practice squad, so he's not an option. And based on the last time he was healthy, he was a solid number 2, better than what the Steelers have in Van Jefferson. Kadarius Toney, who was a Super Bowl hero 2 years ago with the longest punt return in Super Bowl history, he fell out of favor in a hurry with Kansas City, Bob. He's a former first-round pick, though, and I always feel like Tomlin likes taking chances on guys who have a lot of talent and just need a second chance, whether it's Taco Charlton or Justin Gilbert. I mean, not a lot of these guys have worked out here. Darius Hayward-Bay, I guess, kind of did. But he likes going after guys that were thought of highly at one point out of college. And Kadarius Toney was absolutely one of those guys once upon a time.
Yeah, 2 Super Bowl rings, a guy who's been through it, and you're right about the longest punt return. Also, his biggest problem, though, is drops. He had so many drops, and I think they just got tired of watching the ball hit
horrible drops.
Yeah, Noah Brown, though, I like, and we saw him in the preseason here, and once they brought in Stephon Diggs, you knew things were going to have to change, and somebody was going to have to leave that receiving corps. So he's out there. I wouldn't mind seeing him, and I'm sure there are going to be more moves, and the Ayuk situation continues to play out with no end in sight, although I got to imagine something's got to happen here pretty soon. We got to take a break, Andrew. We'll come back, open up the phone lines, and your opinions are welcome right here. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We're live on KDKA Plus, and some nights 93.7 The Fan. Our GMC Sierra tweet of the night comes from our friend Jason Mackey over the Post-Gazette. Pirates are 62-70, 30 left. If they go 500 of those games, they'll finish 77, 85. No way you can sell that as progress. What's worse is, you know, Andrew, they were over 500 at the end of July. They put on a pretty good stretch where they got three or four games over 500, and now they've given all that back, and they're 8 games under 500, and here they go again. So, you know, there's going to have to be change. And I know a lot of people on here want to say get rid of everyone. My belief is because they signed Shelton to a deal which is unknown, which I never understood that either. Why don't they make these things known? You know what other guys sign for. You know what a lot of managers and coaches get. For some reason, we never know what they're up to there. So if it is an extension, they seem to be reluctant to do it. I would not be against if they want to start all over with everything, that's fine. I just don't see that as what Bob Nutting likes to do. What do you think will happen? What do you think should happen?
I would not bring back both. I don't think you can justify Cherington and Shelton. I think Derek Shelton had a very rough go of things early where he had to manage a poor team. And I think that made it difficult to assess his managerial game. I think that gave him, in a way, a free pass, though, because, you know, people would blame more the spending and everything else than they would the moves he made in games. But I've seen enough this year where I don't think he is a net positive in there. I do think that you can do better. And I think sometimes you just need to shake things up. And having somebody in there that's maybe done it before, who has some pedigree or a resume, could make a difference. I don't think a substantial difference like taking them from 75 wins to 90 or anything like that. But, I mean, might be the difference in 5 or 10 games next year. A good manager. So that's the first thing I would do. And if next year there's still no progress, then as much as it pains me to say rebuild all over again and blow it back up, I think you're going to have to do that if year 6 is another painful season.
Yeah. Well, I've said, and I will continue to say, Nutting has to make it. If they keep both of them, this is it. You've gotten 5 years, 6. We better be in the playoffs. If not, then I'm making changes. But then again, he's part of the problem as well because he has a very tight budget. He won't allow them to do certain things. But again, those guys know that when they come here. So you have to deal with the situation at hand. Bob Nutting needs to allow more things. He needs to open up the wallet. Let's go to our number 1 Cochrane Go One Better caller of the night. That would be John in Cranberry. Hello, John. What's up?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. It's always good to talk to you. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm a demoralized Pirate fan tonight like everybody else. The collapse is here upon us. It's just a tough thing. But my question, you know, I watched you guys the other night. Andrew had a great point. He said that we haven't had a meaningful baseball game in September since 2016 in Pittsburgh, and that kind of sums it up. But so my question to you guys is about Ke'Bryan Hayes. So let me say this. We know there's a back issue. It's come out, been reported. Let's say they can't they can't diagnose what it is. They can't, you know, figure out what the problem is. Then what do you do with him for the future? Do you still keep him, or do you try to trade? What would you guys do with Ke'Bryan and his back?
Thank you, John. What I would do is try to find somebody who would want him because it's a nice deal for a team. It's not an overwhelmingly burdensome contract, and teams may want a guy who's a Gold Glove at third. Again, the back is the back, and I'm not so sure. I think they knew about this back when they signed him, which is a little head-scratching to me, Andrew. But I would try to find somebody who has a hitting team that needs somebody to shore up their infield and see if they could take a shot and make him a better hitter. I don't know, but I just can't keep trotting him out there based on what I've seen.
I just don't think teams prioritize defense at third base enough where they would want to sign a guy with a known back issue who averages 1 extra base hit a month, who's got another $50 million left on his contract. I think it's an albatross deal. I think it's a lemon contract.
Didn't they know? Because I remember his back issues have not suddenly cropped up. It's been a thing for a long time.
Yep.
They had to have known it, and you don't think there'll be a team out there that's willing to say, okay, maybe they get a better bill of health on him and say, okay, we could turn him into something better with better hitting instruction. I don't know.
I mean, Bob, his OPS is in the 500s. I mean, unless they see on tape something mechanical that they can fix, in that case, I guess he could get traded, but I don't think you'd get anything back for him. And I think that would be a hitting instructor or a hitting coach in another organization would really have to stick his neck out there to take on a $50 million contract where a guy didn't even hit 5 home runs this season. And you'd be banking on just what he did in the last 2 months of last year, which for most teams is not a big enough sample size. I just think it's a horrible contract. It didn't look like it at the time, and it's not a $100 million deal or anything like that. But based on the offensive production, Bob, it's just, it's awful.
Yeah.
Because he gives you nothing. He's a guy that should hit 9th on a good team.
So what you're suggesting is then if they keep him, they're going to keep playing him and hope. But that's not going to solve their problems, you know? So
it's not
a good situation. Let's go out to Bob in Monroeville joins us right now. Hey, Bob, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
All right, what's up?
I think the Pirate fans need to stay home and send a message to ownership. Don't show up at the ballpark and spend $200-300 a night supporting something that's so bad.
Bob, I would say that I've heard that a lot from people. I have. But I also know that people aren't going to do it. I mean, come on. They're just not going to do it. They take groups to games. They take kids to games. There are a lot of other reasons why people go to games. You're never going to stop them from doing that. You know, during the week in September, you're not going to see big crowds. You never have. You never will. They make their money on the weekends. You know, the bottom line is there needs to be something, and I've said this before, from the league, you know, about spending money. They've looked into this once before. You got to be able, the economic system bothers me. It has for 30 years, Andrew.
It has. Now, there are exceptions to every rule. We've seen it in baseball. Tampa Bay went to a World Series, should have won it if they kept Blake Snell in the game. That was really stupid. Oakland, for a long time, was able to make the playoffs year after year, even though they would trade veterans, get prospects back, and they would just keep that thing going. That well is run dry, though. That team is in deep trouble, and they're headed to a new city temporarily next year. The Guardians are not a big spender. They're near the bottom of the league. Look at that team. Now they're in a little bit of trouble there.
Yeah, first
now
place
in the division,
though,
they're going to make the playoffs. So there's usually 1 or 2 teams like that every season. Arizona was not a big spender last year.
But they spend more than the Pirates
Miami
by
was not
far.
a big spender. No doubt, Bob. No doubt. I mean, they're 29th in the league in spending. There's no reason why they shouldn't spend like Cincinnati or Milwaukee. Those are similar markets. Those teams are spending more. So I think the move that's got to happen is a first baseman. I think Pete Alonso is obviously not ever going to happen because he's a Boris client. But Christian Walker, who is the Diamondbacks' first baseman now, he's a Pennsylvania native. I think he'd be perfect for this team. I think you put a bat like that in the middle of your lineup, you protect Brian Reynolds and O'Neal Cruz with a right-handed hitter like that, I think that would make you a substantially better team. And that would be what, maybe a $20 million a year player?
Yeah, so
they can afford that, Bob.
That's well within their budget. It should be anyway. Let's go to Chuck in Uniontown. Hey, Chuck, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks. I wonder, first of all, do you think the September 1 roster should go back to being unlimited expansion again? And, as far as this year's concerned, I'm not nearly as hopeful as I was last year because I think, in short, it's just too many failures in areas that we thought were going to be strengths this year. They just didn't seize the opportunities at the pivotal point.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know what those things were.
Yeah, I mean,
I just don't feel good.
Yeah, Chuck, I know. I feel your pain. And as far as the call-ups, I like more than just, 2. I think they should do more. If I'm the Pirates, I try to figure out 2 guys I want to see. Give me it, put them out there. Real quick, Pony, let's go to Dan in the Penn Hills before we go to a break. Hey, Dan, what's up?
Yeah, hi guys. I was wondering if you know what the ruling is with the stuff all over that guy's arm, the pitcher, and they didn't do anything about it but make him wash it off. Is that a protestable thing?
I'd like to know more about it. I didn't hear, Andrew, I saw that and I was wondering, what are they doing out there and why was he able to come back? I haven't seen or heard anything. Have you?
I think that the rule there is if they feel like it's not a spider tack situation, that it's more a combination of like pitching in humid conditions in the rosin bag, and they
sweat.
go out and they see it, and they're like, yeah, and they're like, we don't want this moisture on the ball. Go like wash your hands, dry them off, and come back out, and we'll check you again. They've done that. It was not an exception that got made. That's happened in several games this year. So I didn't hear an answer from anybody after the game, but I'm guessing that's what happened there with Justin Steele tonight.
Yeah, because otherwise he would not have been allowed back in the game, and there would have been an investigation. We got to take a break. We'll come back with more. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We're right here live 7 nights a week on KDKA+. KDKA News at 11 starts momentarily. Ken Rice is manning the anchor desk. Ken, what do you got tonight?
Hey, Bob. Tonight, new video showing a local fire chief's efforts to save a pregnant woman from a fire. Plus, potholes so big they have a local lawmaker's attention, and how this heat is affecting schools in our area and their schedules. All coming up in a few minutes, Bob. See you at 11.
All right, Ken, thanks very much. Let's squeeze in Dave in the South Park. Dave, how are you tonight? Thanks for calling.
Bob, Andrew, regardless of the owners spending, the GMs drafting, and the batting coach, isn't the manager, Schulte, responsible for the team on the field? And is there accountability? When do you move on from a guy that's been there for 5 years? Isn't it time?
Yeah, as we were discussing, I mean, you could put blame at the feet of all of these guys, starting with the owner and trickling on down. The manager can only do what he has to deal with. If you look at their roster, you can blame the coaches themselves, the hitting coach, pitching coach on certain, I don't know, Andrew. I hate to hear the word rebuild again, but you mentioned it earlier. And if that's what it takes, that's the wrong approach. I would try to, as you said, go out and get some people who have really gone through this, big names who can lead, big name GM, big name manager. If they're going to do it the right way, not another rebuild with somebody you never heard of before.
Yeah, well, I like Jeff Bannister a lot. He was a manager of the year in Texas. He's the bench coach in Arizona. They went to the World Series last year. They're red hot again. He was a Pirate. He was on Clint Hurdle's staffs. He loves this organization, and he would love to be a big league manager again. And I don't think he has any relationship whatsoever with Ben Cherington, but I know that there are people in the Pirates organization that would welcome a move like that. Absolutely. And I think he'd command respect, because he's been a part of winners before.
Yeah, he's a good bench coach. And I mean, Torey Lovello likes him a lot. But sometimes that's what it takes, too. Just go out and get one of those guys if you're not going to do anything else. Anyway, we're out of time, Pony. As always, I appreciate it. We'll see you later this week. Thank you for calling us tonight. All of you guys out there, hope you do it again tomorrow night and every night. We're here 7 nights a week. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Check us out tonight at 11 on KDKA, and we'll see you again tomorrow night right here.